And we are live here for Dude What's the Bid, episode 27, here on LinkedIn, live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm Kevin Hill, owner of Brush Pass Research, one of your co-hosts, along with Casey Larkin over at Freight, over at Fair Lanes. And I resorted back to 2 years ago there for a second. And yeah, how are you doing, Casey?
Doing well, Kev. Thursday, great day. Ravens play tonight. Got the Bengals in Cincinnati. Funny enough, I want to say maybe I saw Tom Curry in Cincinnati somewhere today, somewhere in the Midwest for sure. One of those regional TIA events. But yeah, doing well. Seems like, I don't know, I saw a tweet this morning from our old buddy John Kingston. Truckload stocks are performing well. I guess the political climate is something that Wall Street likes for the trucking sector. I know you got some exciting stuff you're about to put out on maybe a slowdown in brokers leaving the market. So everything's honky dory in transportation and logistics these days.
Yeah, it is. I think we might be in an inflection point on the broker authorities. It's still trending downwards, but that acceleration month over month has paused, at least for the 1 year. For 2 and 3 year metrics, it's still accelerating. But yeah, it's something to look out for 2025. If we can, kind of end that attrition that we're finding in the broker market, that might mean that the market's turned around, but we'll have to see about that. How about rates? How are rates looking?
Rates seem to be pretty strong. From what I can tell, a nice uptick in, the main equipment categories: dry van, flatbed, reefer. Yeah. There's a guy, Chad Olson. He called bottom a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like a lot of the data and the reporting that we're seeing is supporting that. I know he's got his hands on a whole bunch of data.
Mm-hmm.
Starting to see some positive movement upward for truckload rates, which is good. They've been in the dumps for a very long time.
They have, and you see Craig out as well, cheerleading turnaround in trucking, and hopefully the election generates that, because it's been, I don't know, almost 3 years now of just a horrible freight market, and it's time for a change.
Funny enough, I think he threw his hat in the ring for the Department of Transportation Secretary yesterday on Dooner's show.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was how serious that was, but I guess so.
Tongue in cheek, but
it'd be a little tongue in cheek. That's what I was saying. I wasn't sure if it was tongue in cheek or if he was kind of really being serious about it, but
it's kind of in line with the administration, right? Kind of poke fun at serious things, and seems to get you a long way. I know that JD Vance, I think, is an early investor in FreightWaves and all that good stuff. I think Craig may be involved with our man Prasad as well. I know that they've certainly been working with each other.
I think so too. Yeah, which is a good segue. Let's bring Prasad on to the show. He's of course, the founder of Trucker Tools, and now the new CEO over at Q'd. So we're going to learn all about Q'd and what they're doing. Welcome to the show, Prasad.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you, guys. I like the way you started the conversation. It's good.
Thank you. Thank you. What are you seeing out there in the market right now? Because I know you certainly all the capacity and visibility, background that you have, and now with scheduling and certainly, number one, talking to a lot of different freight brokers and carriers out there.
I think I can split my viewpoint into two parts, right? What has happening for the last few quarters, at least couple of quarters, has been, it's almost a downward trend of everything coming slow and slow and slow, right? the market being very soft. I mean, we all knew this, and brokers are taking it on the chin. There's no two ways about that. And small carriers are hurt as well, right? The good ones, the bad ones are finding a way to make money. That's another story. I'll let Jordan fill in on that one.
Yeah.
But the really the people that are genuine and honest, small businesses, they're getting hurt. That is the bigger part. Now, having said that, I'm not trying to tie this to election in any way, and but I think in the recent weeks things are starting to progress better for us. Now, I mean, are we out of the woods? I don't think so. In my viewpoint, this slowness will continue for a little bit. I mean, we're in the middle of the holiday season, so typically this is where people make a lot of momentum. But that momentum has to come in many folds. Everybody is really looking for that magical pass, right? That Hail Mary pass. We're not going to have a Hail Mary pass, in my viewpoint. It's going to be better than the third quarter for sure, definitely. Holiday season being, but I think we got at least a couple of quarters to recover from this. It's easier to slip down. In my viewpoint, I think from good to bad is easier than bad to good.
Objects in motion stay in motion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It seems like we're somewhat at a bottom in a lot of different metrics, right?
Mhm.
We've been kind of slowly grinding at a bottom, but I think they're starting to see a few green shoots come up to indicate that we don't have to say sometime in the first half or second half of 2025, right? We said that in the first half of 2024, the second half of 2024, the back half of 2023. We've been saying it over and over again because no one knows. But I think people are getting a clear vision of the future right now.
You're right, and it is getting out of this. We have seen this. Kevin, you've been around, and Casey, I know you're very young, but you've got freight in your blood. So we have seen this. It's easier to bring the market down, and then it takes a lot of grinding to get up.
Yeah.
Right? Hard work. A lot of people would have to be very disciplined. Right? That is the key, and that is one of the biggest things that we are seeing is those brokers, those 3PLs, those carriers that have been very, very disciplined are seeing, Kevin, to your point, a lot of, we're seeing it on the green, right? On the fairway, very well, right? They're hitting it very well. They're very disciplined about it. They're not getting wavered by the ups and downs of the market. I think that's an important thing because if you're a 3PL, right, or a carrier, this applies to both of them because we provide services to these two parties provide services to shippers. So if you're a 3PL or a carrier, you would have to play your long-term strategy, innovation, how you create value, right? But not just adding more people, but how do you innovate? How do you differentiate your product for the shippers? Right? That strategy has to be executed. Right? I mean, you're in the middle of that strategy and the market is downward, turned, right? You can't just let go that execution. You have to double down on that execution. And that's what we are seeing with Cured. And I'll say when we talk to a lot of carriers or brokers, the appointment scheduling in particular is such a nagging problem. And I'll take 1 minute on explaining to, for people, a lot of people have known this problem.
Yes.
It is not as easy as, scheduling your doctor's appointment. So there are a lot of nuances. This problem is so big that if you can't get good appointments, it's hurting your bottom line in just like that. I mean, it's a straight line to that. The second part of it is it's so manually intense that over 100 million man hours are spent on this. So, a problem like this, people are saying, I know the market is down, people are not buying software, but people are saying buying, I mean, we've
Right.
in this short period of time, less than a year that we've been, going live with the first customer since, we have the majority of the top 3PLs and carriers, top 100 3PLs and carriers already signed and onboarded and live. So
Nice.
that tells a lot.
It does. And just to illustrate your point, whenever I was a broker, it was one of the biggest headaches out there, because I had a customer. I'd get a couple loads a week, short hauls. I didn't make a lot of money on that. I made money on other lanes, but I had to service this. So by the time I could get the tender out of them, right, in my hands, that it's my load, it was usually too late to schedule an appointment at that delivery location, right? So I'm calling, begging, borrowing, stealing, whatever, right? To get an appointment set where I'm going to pick up a day late. I'm going to get knocked by the customer for picking up a day late, but I don't get the confirmation that their load's ready until it's too late to book that appointment. And it's just this round robin game. And that's an extreme, but whenever you get load, you have to pick up the phone, you have to get a hold of somebody at the delivery location. And then hopefully, those timings can be crazy too, right? So it could be, it could, a 3-day transit, you might not get that 3-day appointment, or it might have to be early in the morning, and you just kind of fake it that the truck will be there, but the truck's going to be late. And, it's
write a sticky note
back and forth.
Yeah.
Huh?
And you write a sticky note and you put it on your desk to remember to schedule the truck, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the most brilliant marketing strategies I've seen, Prasad. It's funny. Have queued sticky notes, and that's what they're used for. Brokerages for scheduling, pickups, and they had them plastered all over the men's bathrooms, the conference and exhibit hall. But it's such a great reminder of, are people spending our time doing things that they should be doing, right? Or is there a better way to do this? Is there something like a queue that could just plug into the shipper system, understand that everybody's got different processes, right? This person may need the windows to open at midnight, somebody else at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., right? And just making lives easier for brokers so they can go and service the loads, right, for the customer.
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about the person that at the delivery location or pickup location that you talk to isn't on the warehouse floor and has forgotten about it. That there's a lot of things that fall through the cracks because of data entry, and you don't really get a confirmation all that much unless you do it through email. Then you have your thousands of emails a day, right? That's the only way you can really get a written confirmation, or it used to, right? A written confirmation about it, and it was just a lot of stuff to keep track of.
It is, and I you guys have summarized this process absolutely well. And if you ask anyone, the process hasn't changed in the last 40 years, unfortunately. And now, when we talk to some of these top 3PLs and carriers out there, their point is, we know this is a down market. I mean, who should be buying software? If you ask anyone, oh yeah, we don't want to be buying software, right? But the smarter ones are purchasing software right now because this is a time to execute your strategy. You don't get rattled by just one swing in a market, downward or upward, and you don't react to market so much in executing your long-term strategy. Right? You have better appointments in a market like this. You're getting to the carriers much faster. We have a large carrier. When they signed up with us, they were taking almost 40 hours before they could even sell that load to a carrier. So these are a big customer, 3PL, sorry, not carrier. So by using Cured, they basically got rid of that 39 hours upfront. and so they're getting to the carriers much faster. So imagine you're getting your best carriers, best appointments. So you're obviously making more money, right? In a time like this, you have to execute this strategy. There is no two ways about it. And that, I think, is the most important thing. People oftentimes, we go between fear and greed. That's usually our decision making, right? In a downward market, people are so afraid they freeze all the time.
Mhm.
If you talk to anyone, oh, we're freezing everything. We need to get rid of people. We can't just do anything. So when you're frozen, imagine you're a basketball player. Imagine Michael Jordan on the buzzer throwing a 3-pointer. If he freezes, that game is on the line. That game is gone. Right? You can't get you can't freeze your shoulders. So that my thinking is that in a times like this, you have to double down. You have to take every shot. You have to believe in yourself, be above everything else.
Well, it's all about capturing 100% of the up market. So that means you have to plan, get everything in place in the down market
Mhm.
to do that. Because if you wait until the up market to make those decisions, those broad strategy decisions, you're going to miss 50, 60, 80% of that up market. And by the time you get up and running, you missed it.
Right. You're chasing your
It's
tail. And some of the stories that we heard, sorry to cut you off there, Prasad, I'll be quick, is the people that did catch the hot market last time started implementing technology really quickly, weren't very strategic about the implementation, and maybe haven't gotten the most out of it, right? And then you've got to go back and audit, and maybe you're not servicing those customers. Like if you're, an Omar Singh or a Surge, right, is kind of the case I'm thinking about here. But yeah, people are, I guess, right. What is the
read page 26 of the contract.
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
To the Warren Buffett quote, I think, right? It's like, I think it's Warren Buffett, fortunes are made in down markets, right? Like you got to do the investing now. And
the blood is in the streets.
Right. There are some companies out there that are growing like a weed, ascending like a rocket ship in the broker space and in the carrier space. And it's the ones that find the right tech, hire the right people, and can implement it seems.
You're absolutely right. How many times a vendor or a 3PL or a carrier calls their vendor and says, I'm paying you so and so every year. We're in a down market. How can you help me get most out of your software? That conversation has to be done, right? We have a philosophy, and most of our customers don't look at our customers as us as vendors. They talk to Qt as if we are their partners. I have a very good friend at one of the top 3PL carriers in the country, and the way he addresses me is, "What's a partner?" He never calls me as a vendor. That has been our relationship all these years, and
going back to other companies, I'm sure.
absolutely, that's an important thing, right? So when you look at the other your vendor as a partner, you're asking, we're going through this downward shift in the market. How do we work together to see we can get the most out of your software? As a vendor, I like that, because you don't want you sell software with the idea that you want users to use it.
Mm-hmm.
You never want someone calling you and say, my users are not using it, so I have to cancel this contract. That's the worst way of losing a contract for a vendor, right? Think about it. You purchase this beautiful Porsche, and you're never driving it, so you call Porsche and says, hey, I have never driven this, so you have to take this off my driveway. That's a good way to lose a car, sale, right? For them. The other part I'll add, we're very fortunate at Qt. So all the things that I've said so far has been from my previous experience, but with Qt, we have been very, very fortunate. I think it's the way we set up the product. We have over 90% adoption, meaning if there are 100 stops that queued get scheduled today, we're already getting over 90 of those. The other 10, that's usually a new employee did not know, or someone thought, well, this is a very complex load. I'm not going to let queue schedule this. Oftentimes, even those come back to us once we do the training and say, hey, that we can handle that. Like, this is an important part, right? As a company, I want our customers to be using my software more and more so they can tell me where are the corner cases. Your users using your product is the best testing you can do without actually paying your testers.
It is. It is. Sorry, Casey, what are you going to say?
I mean, it's really interesting. I think that some folks build products that they think the market needs, right, or they think that the users want, and some people, really identify what the problem is that their ideal partner is having, and really work with them to address it, solve it, and then work with them as a partner. Problems evolve, things change, but as long as people love your product and you're able and willing to work with them to make it even stickier, then I think that really probably separates the wheat from the chaff. And obviously, right, it's easier said than done. Prasad, I guess this is now your third time doing this, and I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit about, like, I think we had a conversation about this briefly one time. It's like, do you have any advice for folks out there that are trying to solve a problem for this market? One of the things that I have noticed, one of my favorite folks in the industry is Gavin Vaughter, and his wife Nadine is an absolute firebrand. She's hysterical. But I know that he was in the industry working scheduling, and he understands this problem. He's dealt with the pain. And it's interesting, right, that you went that route. Would love to hear how you guys are able to, or how you're able to kind of lather, rinse, and repeat solving problems.
It's an interesting question, Casey. I wish we spend more time asking this question on panels, right? I mean, we have so many panels, technology panels, because so today, if you talk to anyone today, everybody's talking about AI changing our lives and so on and so forth. Nobody talks about what is the most important problem that our market faces today. So we start with a solution, not with a problem. That is the problem, in my viewpoint. Right? We don't have to do much. We talk to friends in our industry. You let a top person at a 3PL or a carrier talk for 5 minutes. They're going to tell you what are the biggest problems they face. And the best part is, if you let them talk for more and actually ask proper questions, they actually tell you how that problem can be solved. Right? So oftentimes, finding the problem is the most important thing. You have to be patient. There are some ideas that you talk about, you think about. If they're not ready, you can't jump the gun, right? Like, you have to wait for the market to catch up. I've had Trucker Tools idea for some time, and I didn't start it until I felt like I started early in 2009. But not until when Apple made the third-party apps, open third-party apps on their platform. I had to wait for that. Right? You have to bite time, and as throughout the execution cycle, you can just jump the gun. I mean, we didn't launch DFM at Trucker Tools until 2000. The earlier versions were in 15. I thought that was early to the market. Not in 2009. We had to build the driver base first, right? So you have to wait for the timing. If you jump the gun, you get too excited. A lot of companies that have tried that model in the past have failed miserably because of lack of timing.
Mm-hmm.
It does, and you're exactly right about that. Technologies often, especially in freight, it's leading with the solution and not the problem. And I think that's one of the unique advantages having former people in the industry found company like our good friend Tom Curry over at Qt, right?
Yep.
Where I don't even have to ask where he got this idea from, because he lived the pain of it for so long, and then found, and you as well came in and focused on the user, right? User adoption is the most important thing. What's the secret to user adoption that you found over these years, especially in freight? Because it is tricky, and it's something that a lot of people have a difficult time with, is getting users to adopt to drive the Porsche.
So again, in this particular case, you have to understand the users. You have to talk to the end users. You can't expect, like today, if I come to you and say, Kevin, I have this beautiful idea, and I'm going to create this app, and all the drivers will download this app. After that, if I can say a million things after that sentence, you're like,
Yeah.
there is no way, Prasad, this is going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
The same way with Qt, when I started Qt, it's the same process, right? Our focus is how do we get to the end users? And oftentimes people have asked me this question, and in my previous podcast, in our initial version, I wanted the product to be completely automated. So the schedule appointments. Today, it's completely automated to start with. But then Tom's point is, Prasad, let's wait for a second here. We also need a semi-automated approach for the end users, so that it's not that they want to be, scheduling this, but they have to see it.
Right.
So, in that semi-automated approach, we also created a web portal. If you have ever seen Qt demo, Tom always gives you the website demo. That website was only created for the end user who is restless and who wants to see behind the scenes. They can come on the wall. They never have to use the website. So sometimes when you create a product strategy, you know the right way. You also have to create paths for your users to be comfortable with it, to gain trust.
And that's a really interesting point, because everything I do manually to start, right? Even though there's an automated version, I do it manually, so I learn. And basically, I build trust with my inputs are going, through the automated process, are going to actually work, and to where I kind of, if you go through a math equation, right, and then you can throw it to Excel, because you understand the basics behind that, and once you do that, you go from semi-automated to automated.
You're absolutely right. And that is how the users are being adopted, right? So you have to be open to understanding how the users behave with your product. And I'll give you another example on the same topic. So when I first launched Trucker Tools, even today you have trucking transportation apps. The first thing you see is sign up and registration.
Yep.
We did this 16 years ago, right? And I spoke to our technology and I said, I want to get rid of the sign up and login page, because it's just the worst way to put a product out there. Users would have to sign up with you without knowing what you do for them, right?
Yep.
They looked at me like I was crazy, and they had to jump through a bunch of hoops. Back then it wasn't easy, and that made Trucker Tools app probably the top 10 or 20th app in the whole app store without a sign up button, yet able to uniquely identify you, right? But by doing that, we had the biggest mass. Today, the Trucker Tools product is still very, very live, right? And has over 2.5 million drivers on it. The reason is you have to make it easier for them to come to you. The same way we did at Qt, right? We made that semi-automated path only for that. I'm not going to believe in anything I don't see users. There are going to be users like that. If you can convince them to come on board, you got a winning product. And that's the thing. We did that with Qt.
human nature.
Yeah.
We were in the studio earlier. You guys were talking about, I think you both have 3-year-old little girls.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I know when I was that age, I was picking everything up, tasting it, smelling it, feeling it, and we got to see how the sausage is made.
Mhm.
It's an interesting perspective. Yeah, I think Prasad agree with that. Is like the intellectual curiosity about everything is new, and you find this appreciation because it's kind of becomes new to you again, because
Yep.
it's something that I haven't, the way a French fry or whatever, a chicken nugget feels in your hand. It's not something you think about, but once you start thinking about it, a whole new worlds open up.
It is right. And the human behavior are most of the times technology companies. What they think is, I know better than you on how to solve this problem, right? So I'm going to just tell you, Kevin, just trust me. You just use this, it's going to work. You're like, no, 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 no. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if this works. And when you have a doubt as a user, if the company, the vendor doesn't address that doubt and just blankets by using a blanket statement as trust me, right? Or
Mhm.
yeah, this is going to work. And from that point onwards, it's just, demeaning your intelligence, right? You should never ever do that. A lot of companies fail because they try to blanket that or push back or ignore the doubt. It's when a customer has a doubt, it's actually very, very good thing. And I'm going to quote one of our customers, Sean McLeod from Axel. So we pitched the idea of cured. They didn't come on board immediately, right? And I called Sean. He's like, Prasad, I like the idea, but I'm not certainly sure that if this can solve the appointment problem. He was very right. I mean, I've known him
Yeah.
for many, many years, so he's comfortable telling me his doubts. I'm glad he did, and we said, okay, so let's. Your doubt is absolutely valid, right? Let's go through that, and we take baby steps. And our execution team is marvelous. If you, Kevin, and Casey, you guys have met Tom and Carrie, right?
Hmm.
Carrie heads our customer success. She came from McLeod. um, Customers love her because she's meticulous in layering this solution. She doesn't rush you into a particular endpoint.
Hmm.
And as they onboarded Axel Logistics, recently Sean and I we took a cab ride together. He gave me a ride to TIA, and his point is, I can't wait for you to automate all my loads. So he's gone from initial doubt to I need this for 100% of my stops. That's the journey your customers will go through. And like anything else, you can't build a software overnight. You can't start a company and grow it overnight. And the journey for customers is going to be the same. They're not going to believe in your product just because you have this dream, right? They're going to have doubts. I could stand up and I can talk about 10 different great ideas in my head, and you're like, I'm not sure about all of those. I can hear you, I trust you, but yeah, I have to see something more, right?
Well, and you kind of have to be wary of customers that have no doubts.
How,
So there's something's probably wrong.
yes, and sometimes people dial in also, Kevin, you know, it's just a nature, human nature, right?
Yeah.
I've seen you do a few things and you come up with an idea, I'm going to react to it one way, right? Versus if someone else that I don't know comes up with an idea, I'm going to react certainly,
Yeah.
differently, right? Because that's the human nature. That's why we work with people that we trust, right? Um, so you want to also, I mean, if I lie to you once, then the next time onwards, you're not
Hmm.
going to believe, right? So
Yep.
it all depends on how true you are to your own thoughts.
Yes, it is. And when I say doubts, little roadblocks or objections or challenge. Well, you're gonna have to solve for this. I'm sure Sean was like that. Well, you're gonna. I love the idea, but you're gonna have to solve for this. How are you gonna do that? And then that's where you go back to the drawing board, right? You and Tom,
Yes.
and and take that feedback in, and then you have to prove it. But you're a great partner, so you don't have to prove yourself. You just have to prove that challenge, that you have an answer to that.
Right.
You're right. And sorry, Casey, go ahead. Sorry, you have.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly piggyback there. It's like, Axle is one of those rocket ships, right? And if they've got doubts about my product, I'm trying to serve that market. Like, I'd be an idiot not to listen to them, right? Like, this is exactly who I'm trying to solve problems for. If they don't understand how we're doing that, then like that is something that I need to figure out if I'm, running a tech company. It was also interesting. I heard, I believe, the CTO of Axle on a panel at the Technovations conference talking about change management, getting their brokers to adopt technologies that they bring on board. Right, Axle is somebody who's got the culture, and they figured out how to buy the right tech to grow nicely in a down market. The CTO there was talking about how they then get their brokers to adopt new technologies, right? So Qt is probably one based on what, I'm now connecting dots that, they tested with a couple of brokers. These guys are like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And, that's got to help, right, with adoption, and soon everybody needs it on their desk because it makes life easier.
You're absolutely right, and that's an important thing, right? I mean, you sit in a demo with a customer. If I start naming our customers, I would have to name, more
All
than
of
50, more than 50, because they're all large customers. They're all in the top 100 3PL carrier segment, right? But everyone, I'm so fortunate. I'm going to say this. We are very fortunate at Qt that our customers love to drill us. And I can see Tom getting very excited in his demos when he's doing, and his team, the rest of our sales team loves that. When they start asking, what about a multi-stop load? What about transit times? How do you check those? It's like, yeah, we thought about this. We thought about that. It gives you an appreciation, right? Like, I mean, when the customer keeps asking you questions, it's a good thing, because they're appreciating the amount of thinking you put into that product. And you want to do that. And there are going to be cases where, hey, have you thought about voice-based, appointment scheduling? After a few customers have asked us, we started, building that as well. Email was a thing that we wanted to ignore for some time when we first started building the company. But then a few customers came in and said, hey, this is a huge volume for us. So we actually built the email scheduling as well into this. That's a good thing. That's how you want your startup to grow. This is really the playbook of startups.
Yeah, I mean, congrats to you and Tom. I've known you both for years, and I'm excited that everything is going great at Qt. But going back to your previous background, founding Trucker Tools, which was really a new category, certainly for a long time, right? It's now an established category, which has this good parts and sometimes drawbacks. I think Qt is another new category. It's something with no natural competitors. Can you tell us what it's like being in a new category and building a product and creating your own category, basically, rather than highly competitive categories? And just the pluses and minuses. I think one of the minuses, I'll answer part of your question here because I can't keep my mouth shut. It's one of the minuses is educating the market. But that's one of the pluses too, right? That's probably the biggest plus. So it's not really a minus at all, but it is a difference.
No, I mean, to start with, a new problem or a new market is extremely important for a startup. If you can find one, lean on it, because for these reasons, right? The very first reason is it's a new market. So the market is green, right? You're not trying to compete. You're not trying to flip a customer from one product to the other. Right? The second part is, if it's a new market, you're creating a product, the customer is evolving with you. So if you can work very closely with the customers, which I've did with trucker tools,
Mhm.
Cured, even going back to my Get Loaded days, we used to call customers and say, hey, what do you like? Right? So we made them part of our journey. And if you can make customers part of your journey, what you're building fits into their roadmap so strong, that is the mode for the business. Right.
Mhm.
I mean, it's extremely hard for someone else to steal that customer if you are building that product with that customer.
Mhm.
That fits their needs so well, right? I mean, it's like it fit like a glove, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Um, then the most important, the third part is, if it's a new market, it levels the field for everyone, right? I mean, I'm very fortunate having competed with the DAT twice. So with Get Loaded, they purchased us. Then
Mhm.
with Trucker Tools, I was able to compete with the DAT being, and I'm using them because they are the biggest, 800
Yeah.
pound gorilla in our space, right? We've leveled the space with our DFM, with them and Truck Stop. And this is going back to Trucker Tools days, right? The reason is they were very weak in mobile apps. Neither of them had mobile apps. So
Right.
that levels the field. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
go out and like it's the David versus Goliath. Still.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's dial a truck and internet truck stop. Right. I mean, I think
Yep.
it's hard to evolve. So that's a great point
Yeah.
on that end. Sorry, go ahead, Kev.
No, I wasn't. I was.
Oh, okay. Um, that's really very insightful, Prasad. The other thing that you mentioned there is, I mean, you guys have awesome adoption, right? You started your new industry, right? This new sector, this new problem that's being solved. Huge part of that sounds like is not jumping the shark, right? Solving a problem that people are ready for, and then getting some awesome champions and some power users to adopt it, right? You can solve problems for big guys. I guess theoretically, you could solve problems for everybody, right?
Yep.
Very interesting.
So is the plan, so you have large 3PLs as customers, or carriers another market, or the mid cap and growth type of brokers, the next the next segments to go after?
So interesting, and I don't want my competition to listen to this. They're not listening to me anyway.
Yeah.
We started off with the 3PL market, the top 3PLs, right? We
Hmm.
quickly found out the demand from top carriers has been
Yeah.
even stronger, right? I mean, we
Oh
started
yeah.
off, today we own a huge chunk of the top carriers, 100 carriers in on our platform.
And
I mean, own is
the
a very
large.
bad word. Yeah, they're on
Yeah.
board.
Yeah. And there's and you take that equivalent to the large fleets, they have the same issues
Oh yeah, they have
for.
the same problem, right?
Yeah.
So we started off realizing 3PLs have the same the problem, but we wanted to get to the carrier market a little later, but
Hmm.
they caught us by surprise, and so we have onboarded quite a few large carriers already. In most cases, when we talk to a large 3PL, they're also a large carrier in some cases, or
Hmm.
vice versa, right? So
Yep.
we get both of them onboarded at the same time, or the larger part first, then the smaller part. So we have that segment, right? We still have a lot of ground to cover in my head. I don't want any competition, right? So our team is running with the like their hair is on fire right now, right? It's the holiday
Yeah.
season. We don't feel it that way, uh, because it's an extremely important to be the leaders in the space.
Yes.
You can derive a lot of value when you are the leader in that space by adding more to your data to your customers, right? So our
Hmm.
goal is not only just helping our 3PL and carrier customers, we could help their customers shipper market very well by doing a good job here. Right? In my viewpoint, I think we're still in the very early part of the first quarter of the football game. Um, don't I keep telling our team, just don't get too excited with the score that we are putting on the board. Just, I mean, we still have 3+ quarters to play here.
Mm.
So yeah, buckle up.
Don't take your foot off the gas. It's
No,
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because complacency is the biggest failure for startups.
What is
Complacency. They get
complaints?
relaxed and
Yeah.
they
Well,
don't. Yeah, go ahead.
the position the Q's in, I mean, you you have to take as much market share as quickly as possible, and then you become DAT of the scheduling world, right? You become that gorilla that it's hard for anyone else to come in because they're just copying what you're doing, and they are going to go in with a philosophy of flipping contracts, and that's not a place you want to be in business. You want to be the leader out there, setting the standards.
You're absolutely right. And if you constantly innovate your product, this is another thing. And
Yeah.
those who have worked with us, with me on my startups, they know that I make it a very strong point. We're never done building technology. So it's resetting them every couple of quarters, and so they're like basically rebuilding a lot of these pieces with a lot of new innovation. It's important because if you constantly innovate your product to align with the future needs of your customer, why would they leave your contract, right? I mean, if you look at in our space, you have this big vendor who does, let's say, not, I'm just using them as or this as an example. They don't do any innovation, and they go back to their customer and say, I want to increase your rates. The customer is having that conversation is not a good conversation. The customer is unhappy, right? But if you're constantly innovating your product, adding new things that would help your customer is actually telling you, why are you not increasing my rates, right? And that conversation, that relationship is a healthy one. So flood your customer with innovation that they are just warped, right? I mean, many years back I picked up this book. You got to have raving fans. Your customers should be your raving fans and nothing less.
Mm-hmm.
Cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a much better way to live and work if you have raving fans than just people who put up with you.
It is interesting. I don't know if you have a segue there, Kev. I do have a point to back on.
I thought maybe I did, but it petered out.
I defer. I defer to you.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you insist?
Huh? I insist.
Anyways, it's interesting. Some of the hot companies in the space, a couple of my other favorites are DrumKit, formerly Axle, and Droove over there. Seems like what they're doing is cool. NFIs that are for a big customer, kind of taking a similar approach to you all and Genlogs. And I know that both of those companies, and AVRL and Chad Olson, who I mentioned earlier, does this as well, is creating like artificial scarcity, right? We're only bringing on this many customers. We're new to this. We want to make sure that we're able to service this volume strategically. I think that's something that you guys are doing different, or at least that's interesting to me. And probably a testament to your experience, and that blitz scaling part is really hard to do. Hiring the right folks to be able to take as much of the pie as possible. It's an interesting thing to think about, right?
Sorry, go ahead. Okay.
That's it.
You're right. The last part that you mentioned there, team is everything, right? In the startup, you literally have three parties, right? The first group is your customer group. You want to be not just close, you want to be in their mind all the time, right? That relationship with your customers is a life partner relationship. You got to be able to complete each other's sentences. That's how close you have to be. The second group is your investor group, or the people who are consistently, supporting you, right? This is, I call this relationship as a religion. They have to have so much faith in you, because when you're steering this company, you're going to turn left and right. Sometimes they look at it and say, I don't like that, but they
Right.
have to believe in you, right? Like it's the faith relationship there, right? The third relationship is beyond faith, in my viewpoint. That's with your team. And because the people who are actually delivering your dream is your team, right? If they don't understand, if they don't believe in your dream more than faith, it's going to be extremely difficult. So I go back to the previous thing that I said. You're going to turn left or right. Your investor group might be up, worried, but they're not going to say much. But your team sees that left and right a million times in a day in a startup. They
Yes,
have
they
to be
do.
able. Yeah, it's like, imagine.
For sure.
Um, so yeah, the best example I can say is you got a sailing boat, and they're all hanging to it. Now you're like, oh, turn slightly to this side, turn slightly to this side. They're like, yeah, because Prasad is the only one feeling the air, so he can just do it. That takes a lot of faith for them to go and do this with so much energy. When we hire people, we tell people, I mean, I'm going to be I try to paint the picture as realistic as possible. I tell them it's a chaos. Startup is a chaos. We will change priorities in a day 10 times, 20 times. And don't ask me for a operational procedure book. There's no procedures. You're creating the procedure, right? And we're going to recreate that procedure 10 times in the next week, right? Um, and everything is right now. Everything is right now. But what it is it's solving on steroids, really. Like you solve problems, you make it, turn, and all of a sudden you see, oh, this is a dead end. How do I get out of it? And how do I change that? And so you're constantly innovating,
Yeah.
constantly trying to solve problems, right? It gives immense pleasure. If you love problem solving in the middle of a storm, there is nothing that comes close to a startup. So this is a good place. Now, when we hire people, it's be realistic. Also, make sure that ask that question: Can this person survive here? Will this person fit the team? For us, we've been very fortunate. We always interview 3 or 4 times. Tom and I have this lengthy conversation with our key executives when we hire them. Will this person stay in that role and grow with us? Can this person expand? Can this person handle the stress? We are absolutely, candid in our discussions. You have to be, right, because the last thing you want is somebody unhappy in their position, right?
Hmm.
And definitely we don't know, like when you hire somebody, you'll always say, hey, if this person is not going to fit in the team, disrupt the team, there are certain people who have to be I, right? You want in a startup, it's usually we.
Hmm.
um, that's the nature, that's the DNA of the team,
Yeah.
right? So the DNA of the team, so the culture of the team, you want the new person to be expanding on it, not contradicting it, right? um, Now, in terms of questions, you want people to not hold their doubts back. Going back to the very first thing that we started with, customers have doubts, you don't want them to hold it back. Likewise, you don't want your team members to tell, like, hey, we're turning right. People might say, you sure we're going to do this? They have to doubt you. They have to express their doubt if they have the doubt. And it's okay as a leader of that organization for you to say, I don't know. I'm taking a bet on this number. My gut tells me this is way to go. And we're going. A decisive decision. Don't dilly dally. Don't linger. Don't take too much time to make a decision, because you got to make the decision. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think Kesu, I'm sure will agree with me on this. Especially in the early days of FreightWaves, you, you could tell the traits of the people who survived or thrived, and those that did not whatsoever. They're quickly out the door. And one of the biggest personality traits that I saw, if you're not really going to fit in, you kind of want to come in and have someone tell you what to do all day. A very defined role, right? Yesterday is much like today. It's going to be much like tomorrow. Kind of operational, or the operational procedure, And the people who really did well were the people who created their own job, that they created their own thing. And it was black or white, I mean, it was no very little shades of gray in that.
You're right, and that's how the startups thrive, right? Casey, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right to that point, Kev. You did, we did have a lot of the freedom to, do and ask for forgiveness later,
Mhm.
right? But it, certainly in the early days, it was, to Prasad's point, I believed in the vision, right? The culture was awesome. There were great folks like yourself, or George Abernathy, or so many brilliant folks there that could learn from, right? So
Yeah.
I guess as a person there with, green pastures to, I guess I started selling blockchain memberships, and then, found an opportunity to jump and help take over the book of business for American Shipper.
Yeah.
If I was just intellectually curious, to ask folks, what are you guys seeing? What are your problems? How may I be able to help you? I didn't always have the answer, but I knew that there were folks behind me that I could just go ask the question to, and come back with a great answer for that person. It's funny, like the less that I was trying to sell, the more that the contracts kind of came in counterintuitively, right?
It is, isn't it? The less I try to sell, the more I sell.
Yeah.
Right.
And
the other, it's like
yeah.
hire slow, fire fast is something that I've heard. Something that was a little bit different during those times was all the VCs, and just the theme of the day was grow at all costs, right? Headcount was a metric that people were worried about, and just go steal market share. We'll figure out the economics later, a la Uber, right? So it's really hard to maintain that culture and make sure that you do hire the right folks that have the mindset and can go about doing great stuff and representing the brand. Because every time you hire somebody that isn't rowing in the right direction, or is an I instead of we person, rising tide lifts all boats. But same goes for the opposite, right? Yeah.
You're so right, Casey, on that. It's harder, right? Grow at all cost. I mean, we always have to look at it as, this is a business, you want to be the leaders, but you can't come out of your skis, right? You can lean way too far out. Most of the companies, the Silicon Valley mindset, will just throw more money, more bodies at it, more engineers. And I've always said to our engineering team, what can 10 engineers can do that? Like, I mean, if you put another 10 engineers, what can they do? Like, I mean, if you can't get the problems out of the right way with the first 10, adding another 10 will only slow the process down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got to be careful. There got to be a balance. You can't just hire too many people thinking you're going to own the market.
Yeah, you can't. Well, Prasad, thanks for stopping by on Dude, What's the Bid, and chatting with us for the last hour or so, and educating us about Qt.
Thank you very much. Appreciate. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to chat with you both. And for letting me speak about Qt story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What's Qt's website address?
It's www.qt.com. It's as simple as it. QUUD.
Qt.com. Okay.
Qt.com.
Perfect. Perfect. And if our audience wants to learn more about Qt, contact you guys over there. What's the best method to do that?
If you go to our website, there's contact at q.com or sales at q.com, or you can reach to any one of us through those two channels. We're also active on LinkedIn. And if you see us at Freight Waves show next, in another couple of weeks, it would be good.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you again, Casey. Any final words? Any parting thoughts?
No, yeah. Thank you, Prasad. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Been wonderful, Timmy. Thank you for dropping all of the knowledge, telling us a little bit more about Qt, and diving into, a little bit of the logistics or freight tech playbook with us. Really interesting to think about. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got. Stoked for the Ravens tonight. Stoked for the freight market. I think things are looking up. Yeah, that's all I got.
I do too. I think 2025 is going to be a better year than 2024 and a hell of a lot better than 2023. So I'm stoked to head into the holiday season and then get into the first quarter. I don't want to say the first quarter blues because I don't think they're going to be blue this year. I think it's going to be a good 2025. So let's hope so. And with that, let's wrap it up here. And we'll be back next Thursday, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern time, talking about freight.
Grace Sharkey next week.
That's right, Grace Sharkey. So our old friend Grace Sharkey will be here. That'll be
she's going to be good. Yeah, she's going to be good.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure.